JD Vance attacks Europe over free speech and migration. Now, I've had a lot of people at me and some of the stuff that JD Vance said in his speech, and there was a one thing that he did get wrong about Scottish free speech, and it was relation to prayer. But we'll go into the article and see if he says it. US Vice President JD Vance has launched a scalding attack on European democracies, saying the greatest threat facing the continent was not from Russia and China, but from within. So far, factually correct. It had been expected that Vance would use his speech at the Munich Security Conference to address possible talks to end the war in Ukraine. Instead, he spent the majority accusing European governments, including the UK's, of retreating from their values and ignoring voter concerns on migration and free speech. Factual. Completely factual. Basically, the elites don't care. The elites don't care about what the people want. Right, they don't care, and they haven't really cared for a very long time. Most people don't want migration. Most people want free speech, because believe it or not, most people want to have their human rights. They're shocking, I know, and the elites just simply do not care. They do not care. The address was met by silence in the hall and later denounced by several politicians at the conference. German Defence Minister Boris Pistorius said it was not acceptable. It's not acceptable for you to speak your mind, said the German. Vance repeated Trump's administration's line that Europe must step up in a big way to provide for its own defence. The Ukraine war was mentioned, with Vance saying he hoped a reasonable settlement could be reached after US President Donald Trump's surprise announcement earlier this week that he and Russia's Vladimir Putin had agreed to begin peace talks. But Vance's address otherwise focused on culture war issues and key themes of Trump's campaign for the US presidency, a departure from the usual security and defence discussions at the annual conference. He alleged European Union commissars, what else would you call them, were suppressing free speech, blamed the continent for mass migration, and accused its leaders of retreating from some of its most fundamental values, all of which is true. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, characterised Vance as trying to pick a fight with Europe, home to some of the US's closest allies. For now. Michael McFaul, the former US ambassador to Russia, told Politico Vance's remarks were insulting and just empirically not true. False. That's just false. Europe has been clamping down on freedom of speech hard, right? They're clamping down on freedom of expression. They're clamping down on democracy to the point where Germany is just flat out trying to ban a right-wing party because they're polling a little bit too high. And we don't like it when people get what they want in democracy. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. This is a threat to our democracy. Vance used his 20-minute speech to single out several European nations, including the UK. He raised a legal case in which an army veteran who silently prayed outside an abortion clinic was convicted of breaching a 150-metre safe zone around the centre. She was eventually acquitted, and basically there's a lot of police officers that are now in trouble. However, she was arrested for praying silently in her head. People were trying to deny that that's what happened. No, there is literal video footage of the arrest happening where the officer says, "Are you praying inside your head?" And she says, "I might be." And the officer went, "Well, you know that's an offence," right? And then she was arrested. Right? Now, but he did say it would be, private prayer would be banned from inside your own homes. Now, that part is not true. That part's not true. I mean, at least for now. It's not true, but yeah. The Safe Zone, introduced in October 2022, bans activity in favour or against abortion services, including protests, harassment and vigils. But Vance argued that the basic liberties of religious Britons, in particular, were under threat. This is also true, because a lot of Christian street preachers get arrested and they also face a huge amount of harassment in the street. Right, I mean, we've got street preachers here in Glasgow and they get stuff shouted at them. I've seen them get things thrown at them. People go up and try and troll them and everything. And yeah, they get a lot of crap. However, public speaking Muslims, well, neither the police nor the public are brave enough to go after them. Vance went on to criticise the use of laws enforcing buffer zones, saying that free speech was in retreat and alleging that the Scottish Government had warned people against private prayer within their own homes. Now, that part isn't true. At least not yet, right? Would the Scottish Government do that? Oh, holy shit, absolutely, they would. But we're not at that stage yet. That's the next stage, right? That hasn't happened just yet. So that part was incorrect. In response, the Scottish Government said Vance's claim was incorrect and the law was carefully drafted to capture only intentional or reckless behaviour close to a small number of premises providing abortion services. It is still bullshit. If you pay your taxes, you're allowed to be in the street. If it's a public street, you're allowed to be in that street and you're allowed to express yourself in that area because your taxes pay for it. 9 days before a tense national election in Germany, he touched on the heated debate in the country around mainstream political parties maintaining a so-called firewall of non-cooperation with the far-right Alternative for Germany party, the AfD. And they're like, so-called firewall. No, that's not so-called. Like, they've came out and admitted all the other parties, apart from the AfD, have all agreed to never work with the AfD. It's not so-called. They've publicly stated it. So-called, like, no, it's real. They've admitted it. They've said it on TV and everything. Like, yeah, so-called. In the decade since democracy was restored in Germany, democracy was restored. They're trying to ban a political party. After the defeat of the Nazis, there has been a consensus among its main political parties not to work with far-right parties. Democracy rests on the sacred principle that the voice of the people matters, Vance said. There's no room for firewalls. You either uphold the principle or you don't. Basically, if they're trying to ban the AfD as a party, then Germany is not a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's a controlled democracy. Just the same as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which has got a few things going on right now, or the Democratic Republic of North Korea are controlled democracies. So basically, if Germany banned a political party because, they're too right-wing, then they're in the same camp as the Congo and North Korea. A controlled democracy. The AfD's candidate for Chancellor, Alice Weidel, later shared parts of his speech on X, praising it as excellent. The two reportedly met afterwards, according to the German public broadcaster ZDF. In his own speech, Pistorius directly addressed Vance, saying democracy was called into question by the US Vice President for the whole of Europe. He speaks of the annihilation of democracy, Pistorius continued, and if I have understood him correctly, he is comparing conditions in parts of Europe with those in authoritarian regimes. That is not acceptable. Coming from the German government, who sends you to prison for insulting someone. Yeah, it's a crime in Germany to insult someone. Like, see if you're in public and someone's been a prick and you say, stop being a prick, you've insulted them, off to jail you go. Yeah, and they're trying to go, authoritarian regimes, bro, my brother in Christ. I mean, I bet you're not, but you're outright trying to ban a political party because too many people want to vote for them. You're a regime. You're a regime. Sitting there on, not all. Vance also made reference to the presidential election in Romania, which was annulled in December after declassified documents suggested it had been targeted by Russian state interference. Vance told the conference, if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with. I mean, alright, fair point. Romanian Prime Minister Marcel Cola, don't know how to pronounce that, said his country remains a defender of the democratic values that Europe shares with the USA. All Romanian authorities are committed to organising free and fair elections by empowering citizens and guaranteeing the freedom to vote, he wrote on X. Vance later met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the conference, which is otherwise mainly focused on Russia's full-scale invasion. Zelensky said during the meeting that more work was needed on planning to end the fighting, while Vance says the pair shared a fruitful conversation. Trump said US, Russian and Ukrainian officials would meet in Munich, but Moscow has said it is not sending a delegation to the summit. I mean, probably because there would be a bunch of Cold War stuff happening. I can't wait 10, 20 years from now when all the cool operations and spy... I love spy stuff, man. I do. I don't know why. I've just recently recorded a Mad Lad about another Mad Lad who was like a spy, but this time for the Russians, and it was just bloody interesting. I love spy stuff. But anyway, Vance's speech was very, very good, and everything he said was correct, especially when it came to authoritarianism in Europe, and Europe retreating away from its core values, and especially coming down on freedom of speech. However, people have ignored all of that other stuff and focused primarily on him saying that private prayer was banned in private homes in Scotland, which is not true. Right, he was obviously badly advised on that one. I don't know if he's conflating it with Hamza Yusuf's hate crime bill, where Hamza Yusuf attempted to include in the bill that you could be arrested for things said in the privacy of your own home. right? I think he was badly advised on that. However, private prayer at the moment is not illegal in Scotland. At the moment.